Hello and welcome to Perfect Glamour Fashion. In today's tutorial, we're going to be learning how to make this cupped corset top. In this tutorial, I used a homemade bra cup with bust caging. So you can use this for plus size. You can use this from any size at all and it still come out nice. So let's get started. Now I want you to pay close attention to today's tutorial because it's going to be very detailed and it's going to be a bit advanced, so please pay close attention. Okay, so starting with our basics, we mark our shoulder divided by 2 and then go down by 1 inch, and then we'll mark our neck width, which is 3 inches in, and then we'll come down by our armhole length. Hers is 7.5 armhole length, and we'll go down. Then we mark the bust divided by 4, bust circumference divided by 4, and mark, and then we connect. Now when you're done connecting, you divide what you have in your armhole length by 2 and then you mark, and at that point you come in by half of an inch. We've done this several times on this channel. Okay, so if you're new to this channel, just know that this is how you can achieve your armhole. Very easy, very simple, very accurate. All right, the next thing we're going to do is to mark our neck depths that we're going to be using for the yoke. We're going to be using the yoke of this top, so we're going to be very careful while drafting it. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to trace this out when I'm ready to use the yoke. Okay, so the next thing is to mark the vertical measurements, which is your nipple point, your underbust, and your half length. You're also going to mark the top length, but that will be when you're done ruling out your line. Now that we're done ruling out our line, we're going to measure our waist to hip. Our waist to hip is 8.5. Right, our waist to hip is 8.5. So check out whatever your waist to hip is. This is the time for you to mark it and rule that out. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to mark her nipple to nipple measurement divided by 2. Her nipple to nipple measurement is 7, divided by 2 is 3.5. So we're marking 3.5 on the lines that we've already drawn, and then we're going to just rule a straight line. I have to adjust that so that you see the hip line, that's the hemline. Okay, all right, so I'm going to divide what I have by the shoulder slope by 2. You're going to divide that by 2, and then you mark, and then you connect it to the nipple point line, that's to the bust point line that you had drawn earlier. Okay, so this is going to be serving as our shoulder dart. Now I'm just going to label this out so that you can see what I'm doing. This is the bust point, on the bust, half length, and then the top length or the hip. Okay, now on the underbust, we are going to mark 1.25 inch. 1.25 inch is pretty standard. This is to help your cup to be full. Okay, but if you are anything after, if your bust is anything after 38, then you should be using 1.5 to 2 inches on both sides, and so on and so forth, as much as full as your breast is. Okay, all right, so now we have that. You come down on your nipple bust point by half inch, and then you connect with your curved ruler. Now observe how I place this curved ruler. When you want to do your curve facing downwards, also face your pattern master downwards. Okay, just to give you a fuller cup. That's just the reason. Now the next thing I want you to observe, now for this corset, see, your corset must not be open. It should be how you want it to be. Okay, so usually I will tell you to take the difference between your bust points and your underbust and mark it as your chest line, but you can use whatever you want. Just measure from your shoulder to where you want your corset cup to start. Because you are doing a homemade bra cup, it should be as covered as you want or as open as you want. Do you understand? Yeah, it should be however you want it to be. Okay, even if you want it to be turtleneck, you can make it to be turtleneck. Okay, that was a joke. Corset cannot be turtleneck. So what I want to use for her is 6 inches. You saw how covered her bust region looked in the in the video initially. So this is the reason, because I used 6 inches, because I don't want it to drop so much. Okay, I don't want so much of her cleavage. She didn't want so much of her cleavage showing. Okay, now you also mark your neck depth how you want it to be. I use them 8 inches. Yeah, 8 inches. Then you, on that 8 inch, you come in by half of an inch and connect. Now for this overbust tightening, normally this I will draw it half inch on both sides, but I want the overbust tightening to be around that center front region only. So I marked 2 inches towards the CF, towards the center front, instead of marking half 1 inch on both sides. Did you observe that? Okay, so I marked 2 inches towards the CF, and then I converted this that leg, the shoulder, that leg, I converted it to a curved line. That's it. Okay, I hope that made sense. Now, if you have any question, please ask me in the comment section. I'll be there to answer. Okay, those my OGs, say I answer your questions. Okay, so so you connect the sweetheart neckline, you connect that leg to the center front that you came in by ½ inch. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is to just measure the that legs to make sure that they are, they are the same, right? And then you place your curved ruler to connect the first cup. So this is the center front part of your cup, and then for the side, you mark the difference between your bust points and your under bust plus ½ inch. Okay, so the difference between your bust point and under bust plus ½ inch. Okay, now for the side, to connect the second cup to the armhole, what you're going to do now, it depends on how you want the yoke to be. For this, I didn't want the yoke to enter the armhole. Okay, so I came up by 2 inches from the armhole and then I connected it. You see that? Okay, so my cup will be on its own, my yoke will be on top of the cup. I hope that makes sense. Then I'll connect this all the way to the armhole. So by this, I've formed my second cup. I hope you saw that. I hope that made sense. Okay, so you mark your waist divided by 4 plus your dart intake. Don't forget to replace your darts. Okay, whenever you do have a dart, always replace it. Now I also mark my her hip plus dart intake. Okay, so what I use for the dart, I'm going to replace it in the hip after I've placed my hip circumference divided by 4, and then I'll connect that. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is to come down from the center front by 6 at the half length, and then for the side I come down from the half length by 4, and so I will connect it. So from the half length at the CF, the center front, I came down by 6, but for the side I came down by 4 and I connected it. Now I also came in on the half length, I also came in by ½ inch. This is going to be for waist snatching. Okay, that's how tight I want it to be. If I come out by half, that means I'm taking out 2 inches from her original waistline. Okay, because that's ½ inch on both sides of the front and ½ inch on both sides of the back. That's 2. Okay, all right. So the next thing I'll do is to replace the darts opening for the chest, and I will connect it to the ½ inch I came in by. I hope this is making sense. Okay, if you have any question, please ask in the comment section. I will be there to answer. Okay, now this is where it gets really technical, but I believe you're going to be able to understand. So the first thing that we're going to do is to divide. Now I want it to have 3 pieces, 6 pieces, so that will be 3 on both sides. So I'm going to see, you can do this anyhow you want to actually, but I'm using 2 inches on the upper side, the under bust side, and then I'm using 1 inch on this lower side. So just to form a slanted line. So the lower side is 1 inch apart, the upper side is 2 inches apart. Okay, so this is simple. This part is actually simple actually. So once I'm done connecting that, I'm going to rule that out. Mind you, I joined the pieces with the 2 pieces, the center front and the side front, with solo tape before I did this. Okay, so join yours and do the same. So with this, I'm done cutting the body of the front. Now all I'm going to do now is to alter this cup to give me the 3-part cup. Okay, now go ahead and trim out these darts from the cup. Okay, trim out the remaining darts from the cup, and then you have 2-piece cup. Okay, now we're going to alter this to give us the 3-piece cup that we want. So I went ahead to draw this on a fresh paper. The one I was using was salt with water, but then I had to redraw it. That's why it doesn't have all the lines, but I marked the bust point line, the bust point, I marked it. You're going to see that more clearly when I zoom in. Okay, so that leg for the down part is 2.5, but for the upper part it is 2 inches. Okay, so this is the nipple point that I just marked now. So on that nipple point that you have, that your nipple point line, go up by 1 inch. Okay, so on your bust points or your nipple point, whatever you call it, go up by 1 inch, okay? And then when you go up by 1 inch, go ahead and join the upper parts of your corset with a sellotape, okay? So when you've done this, the next thing you're going to do is to come down at the center front. So this is the center front, this is the side. So come down at the center front by 2 inches, but by the side you come down by 2.5 inch or 3 inches. Okay, come down by 2.5 inches or 3 inches. Then you connect this with a slightly curved ruler. Just slightly curved. Okay, so just place your ruler in a way that it should connect, and then connect it. Okay, when you're done doing this, the next thing you will do is to cut out the down parts. Now we've transferred all the darts to these down parts now. Okay, you see how wide it's open? That's what will form your curve. Okay, so we'll cut that out and label. Don't forget to label and use arrows. Okay, and then mark where this your nipple point is. Don't forget to mark it so you don't get confused. Now we're working on this upper part. You will take this upper part and place it on a fresh piece of paper and open up this part, and make sure that the opening is 0.25 apart. Okay, then trim it out on this fresh, like trace it out on this fresh paper. Still making sure that the opening there is 0.25. okay, at this center now. Okay, so I'm using pencil to just trace it out, and then give this a little bit of a curve at that opening so that it doesn't shut when I close it up. You get that, right? Okay, and it will also serve as a pointer to where the middle is. So I'll then trim off the excess. I hope that made sense. So if you didn't understand what I did, just pause, go back, and then watch what I did. You will understand it. Okay, all right, so when we're done doing that, this is how we just transformed our 2-piece cup to a 3-piece cup. It's that simple. Now that we transfer to the down part, by the time you place this thing, you will see that the dart is now evenly distributed. Okay, I hope that made sense. Okay, so for the back, I'm going to be rushing this back part because you should know how to do this back part by now. Hello. Okay, all right, so divide your shoulder by 2, go down by 1 inch, then mark your neck width of 3 by 1. That is 3 inches width and 1 inch depth. Okay, and connect. Okay, then you come down by your armhole length, which is your bust divided by 6 plus 1.5 or 2, depending on how busty you are, and connect it down. Then you mark your bust divided by 4, and then connect your angle. Then on that same line, on the armhole line, you divide by 2, and then mark the center and connect with your curved ruler. So next will be to mark your vertical measurements, your nipple point, that's your bust point, your half length, and your hip. Okay, your waist to hip. You don't need your underbust for the back. I think I actually marked it here, but you don't need it. Okay, so when you're done doing your vertical measurements, the next thing is to divide your nipple to nipple measurement by 2 and mark. Hers is 3.5 after dividing it. Okay, and then you connect that. Then you're going to label this nipple point on the bust, half length, and the hip. So on the half length, you're going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides. I also went ahead to rule the chest line. So I'll rule out the chest line now and extend the nipple to nipple measurements upwards. Okay, now on the chest line, I'm going to mark 0.25 on both sides, and then I'm going to connect it to the half length. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the hip. I'm going to mark 0.25 on both sides of the hip, and I will connect that to the half length. Okay, now you're going to mark how deep you want your back to be and connect it to the armhole. Okay, to where the armhole ends. And then you're going to mark you've already marked your bust divided by 3, your bust divided by 4, sorry, and then you extend your armhole by adding the darts you took at that chest line, and then you mark your waist divided by 4 plus your dart intake. Don't forget to add your dart intake and connect. Then your hip divided by 4 plus your dart intake. Whatever you use for your dart intake down there, that's what you add and connect. Now you come in by half inch. Remember we did that for the front. You come in on your half length by half inch for the waist snatching and connect it back to the hip. Now to know where your hip will end for the back, just like we did for the front, you import the side of your front. Okay, you introduce it and then you connect it to the center, okay, with a curved ruler. Okay, then you will come in from the center back by 1 inch. I couldn't capture where I ruled this down, but you just come in by 1 inch and rule it all the way down and cut this piece out, and we are done. We are done with the pattern drafting. In my next video, I'll be showing you a detailed step-by-step tutorial on how to piece this together and how to make it. All right, so compliment of the season. So I see you in my next video. Bye.